I want to bring the schools back to the states. And, I've said it 100 times. We're ranked at the bottom of the list, and yet we spend more. We're ranked #1 for cost per student. We're ranked at the bottom of the list in education.
President Trump is aiming for his education secretary, Linda McMahon, to put herself out of a job, and he might help move the process along very soon. Reports say Trump is preparing an executive order to dismantle the department as much as the law will allow. Democrats, they're not too happy about it. Watch.
Do we need to make the Department of Education more efficient? I believe we do. Do we need to destroy it and wreak havoc for working class families across this country? Absolutely not.
He's using your kids' education money to give tax breaks to his billionaire buddies.
They are sick to death that they don't have their hands inside the Department of Education Treasury. What they want to do is to sell off our public schools to the highest bidder.
No, they got all those wrong. Funding the department that's failing our children sure ain't cheap. In 2024 alone, it spent a total of $268 billion, only to be met with record low grades.
Joining us now is former Department of Education Press Secretary, Under Secretary Betsy DeVos, Angela Morabito. Angela, it's so good to have you join us this evening, because we know that Secretary DeVos has long been an advocate for shrinking the department, even dismantling it. And so I want to ask you, when we hear talks about, Trump preparing an executive order, bringing about these massive changes as much as the law will allow, is it eliminating the Department of Education more about budget issues as we're trying to slash costs across Washington, or is it more about changing curriculum and empowering parents at the state level?
So that's a great question, but it's not really an either or, it's a both and. By getting rid of the federal Department of Education, we can cut billions of waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm honestly stunned by what DOJ has uncovered less than 2 months into President Trump's second term. But also, by getting rid of this federal bureaucracy, we can send more federal education dollars to the states, and in doing that, empower parents to make the best decisions for their children. So de-woking education and getting rid of wasteful spending can both be accomplished, or at least accelerated substantially, by getting rid of a federal department that has failed in its mission.
Hey, this is one of my favorite things that President Donald Trump is doing, is to abolish the Department of Education. They have 4,500 employees. You don't need a middleman. Let the dollars flow to the kids. All those curmudgeons on the Democratic side telling you that they're trying to get their hands into the schools and their tax breaks for billionaires. Hogwash. That's not what's going to happen. Dollars follow the kids. Implement more school choice. Get parents, get them involved, get the school districts, and leave it to the states is the right direction. But some states, they won't necessarily know how to handle it. And Angela, what I want to get your reaction to, because it's a stunning number, according to a new report, more than one third of New York City public school kids were chronically absent last year. That amounts to 300,000 students in the country's largest public school system were chronically late last year.
It's absolutely horrifying, but honestly, it's not that surprising, because 5 years ago this month, we had teacher union bosses and their political allies start to tell every family in America that school was non-essential. We all know that's not true. School is essential, but of course, some families believed them and they're not sending their kids to school. Now, one fix for this is school choice. Let parents choose where their kids will learn, send them somewhere they want to go. But you see this in major cities like New York City, which isn't alone, by the way. This is happening all across the country, especially in urban areas. And I have to tell you, I see these numbers and I just can't blame some of these kids, because these schools are failing to teach their students to read, write, and do math. And it is the height of disrespect for families to expect them to keep showing up at places that just don't deliver a meaningful education.
Angela, it's such a good point, because on the recent national test results, it showed that only 1/3 of 8th grade students, I should say, as much as 1/3 of 8th grade students scored below basic in reading, which is the worst performance on the assessment since 1969, so more than 50 years. That means that they're missing out on context clues, and that's coming when you look at the state of New York, where we have a lot of spending to educate just one student here in the state, $30,000 for one student. So you raised some really important points here. What do you think is going to take to turn the disastrous performance in schools around? How long, how many years of reversal will it take to fix this?
I think this can be fixed relatively quickly as long as adults start acting like adults so that kids can be students and they can get that education they deserve. This means getting rid of the federal education bureaucracy. This means returning to high standards in states. Teacher union bosses have fought against every measure of accountability in schools, from standardized testing to teacher evaluations to read by 3 laws that ensure kids have those basic skills. So it's going to take leadership at all levels of government to get back there. But what we've seen in places like Mississippi and Louisiana is that when those pieces fall into place and we've got great literacy education, things happen really fast.
Well, and they also got to secure those schools so the kids aren't scared to go to school. Angela Morabito, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Do appreciate it.